This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to a Glass Blowers Companion, episode number 19. How the hell are you doing today? I am recording this on December 1st, 2020, and it's been about a month and a half since I recorded an episode. I do appreciate everybody who has listened and downloaded, and anybody new to the show that has found me through Instagrams and social medias and just randomly through looking up podcasts. I definitely appreciate you finding the show. As I look at my download numbers, it's been interesting to see the growth of the show, even without posting any episodes. So again, I am truly honored, and I appreciate each and every one of you listening to this. I hope you had a happy and healthy holiday with the families, if you did anything for Thanksgiving. I know myself personally, I had to work, and then we did our Thanksgiving on this past Sunday. And over the years, working over at the Mouse House, my family's gotten used to me having to work on the holidays, whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving Day. And we all just evolve and sometimes work around my schedule when we can. So it was nice to have that. And also been working my ass off the last about month and a half, 2 months or so. Was just busy filling orders and keeping my head above water, as I've only been working part-time back over at Disney. And by part-time, I'm doing I think it's 53 hours every 2 weeks. And we used to do 85 hours, I believe it was, every 2 weeks. And so we're just kind of keeping our head above water as a company as we navigate through this whole pandemic. And I know Disney's losing billions of dollars with things. And so that being said, it's been nice to get back on the torch and have some kind of a full-time experience for myself, making my own things. But that being said, I'm going to be starting a 12 Angels of Christmas starting on the 5th, I guess it is. Starting on December 4th. And it's going to run up until the 16th, which is my actual birthday. And then on that day, I'm going to be doing a big giveaway on my Instagrams. So check out that. The angel idea came from a custom order that I had received. And I posted the picture on my Instagram of a tree topper. It was a pretty big tree topper, using some Contrax tubing for the body part to give it that rigid, kind of ribbed, fun texture, to the body of the angel. It was about 10 inches in length. It was a pretty big piece, but it got me thinking about making some smaller ones and something I could do for my limited edition ornament for this year. I know over the years I've talked about ways to help yourself develop new lines, make some money during the holidays, and it's always fun to do an annual Christmas ornament. So this year what I'm doing is every day from the 4th until the 16th, I'm going to be releasing a set of 5 ornaments, and each day will be a different style. The goal is to sell them individually. Some people may want to buy all 5 at once. I'm going to have them priced at around $50 a piece. And what I'm doing is taking 25% of the sales from these ornaments and donating it to the cast member funds that are out there for Disney cast members that have lost their jobs. Something around 32,000 cast members were released and let go between Florida and California. And it's because they're struggling, and it's not of their fault because of this pandemic that we're all in. They needed help, and financially wise with food for the holidays and just in general. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be doing more promoting of it. It's something actually I just out of the blue kind of came to me the other day, and we kind of fast-tracked the idea. My wife made a nice little graphic for me last night that I posted today in my story, and I'm going to be getting it up on my main wall, whatever you want to call it, and on my main page on my Instagram. So excited to hopefully this is something successful, because I definitely want to help out as many people as I can this year. As I've been helped out over the years tremendously from so many people, and I've always loved to pay back when I can. So that's what I'm going to be doing for that. Yeah, so that being said, today's guest is Austin Hensley. He was back on the show back in 2017, and he has come back on just to kind of catch up, really. This conversation, I hit record and we started talking and just went from there, as you'll hear, and just fun talking. Austin's been working with glass since he was 6, and it's been over 20-something years now, longer than that, that he's been working with glass, and has been slowly growing his business, and him and his wife now have a fun little venture that they're working on, which involves him which he's been doing for a while, working out of his dad's old full-service gas station, like an old 50s Texaco-style gas station out in the middle of the desert kind of situation. And they're going to be turning this into a glass studio, which he has already, but also a bakery or a restaurant for his wife. And so we get into details about that and just kind of shooting the shit, just kind of how things have been going, how we're handling the pandemic and dealing with the holidays and sales, and how some are having some successes and some artists are not having success over this 2020 that we've been all navigating through. And so it wasn't really a typical interview conversation type of show that I do. It was just him and I just shooting the shit, really. So I hope you do enjoy the conversation. Lots of fun little tidbits that we pull out of it, and just some good advice, and just want to kind of get the ball rolling with the show again. I just wanted to take a break. I just had so much going on in life. Focusing, my wife and I have our FEI Disney podcast, and I wanted to focus on a couple series that we did for that, and then also doing video edits and stuff for my Patreon group, which has been slowly growing. And I do appreciate each and every one of you who are a part of the Patreon group. And if you want to come on board, help support the podcast and all the things going on, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio, which I still have the old Wise Guy Radio name on to it. And that's just because of previous episodes and stuff where I promoted the Patreon. I want to make sure it all just stays consistent. So if you need to find it, you can help support the show for as little as $1 a month, and that $1 gets you into the group, gets you into the conversations. I've been starting to do some coaching calls, and I always ask questions what the people that are in the group want to know. I have one particular Patreon who has not yet started blowing glass and is very interested in it, and so he's in there to get some ideas and ways to get started, and I'm excited to help him on his next journey as he gets his equipment, and we're going to be doing a complete virtual lesson through getting him going and getting some basic fundamentals with glass blowing. So again, if you want to become part of this community, and it definitely would be fun to have you there, and we'd appreciate the support. You can just go find me on Patreon at patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio, and I'll have the link in the show notes as well. And other than that, I don't know. There's a whole lot going on. We've gone through the holidays, we've gone through the elections. Just things are pretty fluid right now out there. Things are constantly changing. There's vaccines being released soon, and hopefully 2021 midpoint we'll be getting to some kind of normalcy, which we'll see what happens after this winter time. As I don't want to talk about negative shit, but we'll see what happens. I'm concerned and optimistic at the same time. So we shall see together. Also, behind the scenes, I've been working on writing my first couple episodes for Wise Guy TV, which is going to be airing and releasing in January. I'm super excited. My buddy John's on board with me. He's going to be helping me produce a show. I'm getting all my lighting and stuff set up, and once we get the first episode done and ready to go, you will be the first to know that listen to this podcast. It's going to be coinciding with this podcast as well. I'm going to be having a little segment with a guest to kind of tease their episode I'll be teasing that. The tease will be on Wise Guy TV for the podcast episode, if that makes sense. But you can find the YouTube channel is just go to find Wise Guy TV. You can look up, it's WYZGUY TV. And I have all of these podcast episodes are on the YouTube. They're all super organized in categories that they have been basically, whether it's law talk, artist interviews, the Wise Guy Minute episodes that I've done, they're all in their own little categories and playlists, so it makes it easy to find and navigate that as well. And there's a couple of videos on there. Most of the videos that I have, though, on my YouTube are just set up for the Patreon groups. But I will be doing some posts for some videos for everybody. And talking with Austin, too, he's going to potentially, if it works out, become a regular segment on the Wise Guy TV, doing a little demonstration to kind of end the episode. And we'll probably do some rotations with other artists too, but that was a fun idea, which you'll hear him and I talking about it towards the end on how we'll make that work. But other than that, I didn't write any notes for this opening. I'm just kind of shooting off the cuff and rambling. So I don't want to keep the rambling going too long. So just wanted to say real quick one more time that is thank you so much for all the love, all the listens, the follows, the contacting me, the comments, everything. Whether you're new to the show or not, I am truly honored and greatly appreciate and very thankful for everything that you have given me and I have given you. Going on, starting next year will be year 6 for this podcast, which is just completely crazy thinking about that. But we have a lot of content. There's been over 300 episodes between the Wise Guy Radio and then transitioning into Glassblower's Companion, along with the Wise Guy Minute episodes, talking a lot of business and health and law and just all the things that I wanted and have wanted to cover for us as artists in the industry, so y'all can become the most successful glass artists out there that you can be. And that's also just not financial success. That's also just life success as a human being. So that's what this show's all about, really, is finding the success internally, and that usually turns into success externally when it's all said and done. So that being said, again, thank you so much for listening to this episode, number 19. And once again, thank you so much for listening to episode 19 featuring Austin Hensley. I have all the links out there in the show notes. You can find him on all the socials, and that way you can see all the cool shit he's been making this year. He's been evolving and changing his line of work, and I love what he's doing. It's pretty cool stuff. So until then, we will talk to you soon. Hope you have had a happy holiday and kick some ass out there. Time to make some money, folks. It is the holiday season. Love you so much. We'll talk to you next time. Take it easy. Peace. It's interesting, man. I've seen a lot of artists that are struggling, and then a lot of artists that are fucking killing it right now. Like this, especially even distributors and stuff.
Yeah, I just changed gears, and it just, it just took the fuck off. It was weird.
Yeah. It's
unexpected.
Yeah, weird is a way to put it, because I know everybody's shopping online and like that kind of stuff too, but it's just still it's interesting how things are going.
Yeah, and that's kind of what prompted me. Like, as soon as the quarantine happened, I kind of realized, like, oh shit, everybody's going to be home all the time. Like, I've got to do more online promotion and everything like that. And then right at that same time, my wife quit her job because of the whole pandemic situation and being, exposed to people all the time and not feeling like it was safe.
Yeah, mine's in a very similar situation, working for the banks. They actually allowed her to get set up at home, and which they sent her the computer and stuff, but they haven't told her when she's starting back up again. She's been on like a paid vacation for like 8 months. It's been pretty rad.
Hey, I was gonna say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
She might be getting a little tired of me being around all the time, but she says yes in the background.
Furiously nodding in the background.
Yeah. It's probably reciprocated both ways. Yeah, and then she says, excuse me. So I was listening back to our old episode. So you actually were my first interview when I moved after my divorce and moved out to Orlando. So it's 2017.
Right, yeah, I knew it had been a while. I couldn't remember exactly how long.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, 176.
Nice. I listened to it when we first talked about doing this again, and then I forgot to listen to it again recently.
Yeah, I didn't listen to it all the way through, but I definitely had to at least see where we were.
Right. Yeah. And so much has changed in 3 years for me personally that it's like, trying to think about 3 years ago is like a whole different world.
Oh man, tell me about it. I know, like I was never planning on getting married again, and here I am remarried, and yeah, in a fucking pretty blessed space in my life right now. It's pretty good shit.
Right? Yeah. Last time I talked to you, you were like bitter and over relationships.
Yeah, I was like, fuck this shit. I'm gonna start dating guys or something.
Right? Yeah. Whatever's clever, whatever makes you happy. That's what I always tell my friends.
Exactly.
Look at me funny when I say things like that too. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I don't care what you do. You go date an elephant as long as the elephant's okay with it.
Yep. Exactly. I think I got you.
Yeah, I'm back in what's called my studio in my dad's shop now, and I've been like renovating, and I moved stuff to the other. Like I moved my studio to the next bay because it's like a automotive station, so there was 2 bays and an office, and I was in the like kind of in the bay that's in the middle of the building that
Okay.
has an old hydraulic lift, like a big 2-post lift that is from fucking 1942. And I moved over to the next side over because it's got like a little bit more room for what I'm doing, and then also it allows me to renovate that space that I was in and turn it into a restaurant for my wife.
That's awesome, man. Hell yeah. Congrats.
Yeah, that's how crazy this year's been. I've been able to actually like do that.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. Just to kind of back up real quick too, if you want to kind of those that haven't heard your previous episode, you definitely want to go back and listen to. It was 176. I think it was right when I first started the Glassblowers Companion brand. I think I just did the rebranding of it.
It was either that or right before it.
Yeah, it was one of the two. It was
Yeah,
2017.
I know it was right around there.
Which is crazy. But yeah, man. So yeah, you're in your dad's kind of old school gas station where your studio is at, and I was talking to my wife about that. I was showing her some of the pictures and how cool it is, and I was kind of thinking like open flame and gas station. I know how fumey it can be, with all the gas when gas is being installed or put into the tanks, for the gas stations. So
yeah, we were a little bit, I guess, like devil may care kind of thing. My dad's definitely the old school mechanic that's like, are you on fire? You'll be fine. Just roll on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
you fell out of the car, tuck and roll. You'll be fine. I grew up with a lot of like, kind of semi-questionable safety practices.
Yeah. Just rub some dirt in it.
Nothing super serious, but definitely, he'd let you break your arm, figure out why not to break your arm, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not a helicopter parent. I've always been one to let my kids stumble and fall and hurt themselves, whether it's physically or like metaphorically speaking.
Yeah. My dad was just one of those guys. He's just like, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I'm like, there's a limit to that.
Yeah, that is true.
But it's been really nice. This is like the last vestige of like family that's left the building. My mom sold the family home about when I was doing that last interview. I think I was still living down there. And that was kind of a bitter moment, just because I had always kind of expected to be able to try to buy it or whatever, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I was the same way, man. So, that's funny that you say that. My childhood home was the same way, and then my grandparents ended up selling it, and I was like, oh man, would love to have that home still.
Yeah, and that's I'm still. This town's 10 miles wide, and there's only 5,000 people here, so the chances of me getting it back are probably pretty good if I stick around long enough. But it's just one of those things. It's nice to have this place.
Yeah, and I had the same kind of hopes, and then they sold it to Stetson University, a law school here, and the college was going around the neighborhood just buying up all the homes for dorms or for housing for their students, and because it's like a block away from the university there, and it's a smaller school. It's actually the school is built in like an old country club, kind of like Spanish style country clubhouse, and it's pretty big. It's got banyan trees all around it. Like it's fucking, the campus is gorgeous. When I was a kid, my buddy Chris and I used to go there and get in trouble with the security that was there. We'd rummage through and like find all the secret hiding places, and like there's like all kind of stories I've heard over the years from people that were partying there in the old days of. Babe Ruth had a house around the corner that he owned, so it was like that kind of like celebrity kind of space back in like the early 1900s, whatever, mid-century, I guess you'd say. So
right, that's kind of how this town is. It was like hopping back in the day, and then it like completely died for a large period of time.
Is that, you think, because of like Route 66, like how the movie Cars, how they went to shit, Radiator Springs?
There was a lot of towns here in Arizona that did go that way. Like Holbrook is the town that on Cars is, the cones.
Uh-huh.
Holbrook has teepees that look like that. That's what that's based on. That whole
interesting.
That whole thing is based on Holbrook. And so, like, there's definitely a lot of towns in Arizona that did go that way. Clarkdale wasn't one of them, simply because we were the mine town. So what ended up kind of killing Clarkdale was when Jerome stopped being one of the biggest copper mines in the world.
Interesting.
It just everything kind of dropped away.
Huh.
When Clark died too, it kind of all got really weird. So, yeah. And then the mine, they had a lot of issues with Jerome. I don't know if you know any of the history of Jerome, but
No.
they produced most of the copper for the entire country during the World War II kind of era. So they were like super epically rich, producing all the copper for all the like guns and all the freaking bullet casings and everything like that. So they kind of just like did whatever they want.
Sounds like it.
Like they owned an enormous amount of the area around, and they just kind of did whatever they want. But Jerome's kind of an interesting story. They had to turn it into an open pit mine because they had a fire underground in the mine for like so many years that they couldn't put out. Things like that.
Wild, huh?
Yeah, there was like something I don't know the exact time frame, but it was something like 20 years or something like that. They fought to get this stupid thing out underground, and they never were able to. They brought like this Welsh team that literally specialized in putting fires out underground, and they couldn't put it out, so they eventually ended up just ripping it open in an attempt to like be able to still work that area. And before that, it was all just like a normal like hive kind of mine. It wasn't like a big open pit like it is now.
Right. That's wild, huh?
Yeah, and they spent that whole time chasing a gold vein that they never really found the end of. And all the like gold and silver and everything else that they mined out of Jerome, they never. It was all pure profit. Like the copper paid for everything. It paid to build the town. It paid to build this town that I'm in too. Like it was kind of insane how much Jerome funded the surrounding area.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy, huh? Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. Those old history.
Yeah, well, and that's like even this building. The sides of I'm sure in the pictures, I don't know if you noticed, but the sides of the building are copper. And that's a stipple coated panel that they made specifically for like I think like 6 to 8 of these Texacos that were built during that period of time, and this is the only one left.
No shit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we ran it full service. It was a Texaco, and then it was I forget who else, but the holding company owned it, and a few people privately leased it over the years, and it was always like a full service gas station. And when Dad bought it in '88, he kept it a full service gas station up until I want to say like 2013 when he got cancer and just kind of couldn't freaking do it anymore, and I didn't want to pump gas anymore.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I spent like 15 years here pumping gas, washing windows, and doing all that whole thing, all while I had this little rolly cart. And speaking of the gas fumes and stuff, I would the fire department would show up with like a tape measure and wander over and be like, "Are you 25 feet away from the pumps with that torch?"
That's hilarious.
And I always give them shit too, and I'm like, "Well, this is no more dangerous than my dad sitting here with a welder, and he does that all the time." And they'd be like, "Oh, all right, that's a good point," And then they got used to it real fast. And then instead of showing up and like giving me a hard time, they show up and sarcastically give me a hard time so that they could stand there and watch whatever I was doing.
Heck yeah. I deal with that at Disney. The fire department will come in, or the local, like the cops or the EMTs that are roaming around for the day. They'll come in.
Right.
Like, just checking on you, man. Seeing how you're doing.
Right. What are you doing in here? You doing everything okay?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty funny. They like to bust my balls. We actually had, at Magic Kingdom before COVID, we had the Main Street players. And they have like the mayor and some of the local ladies that walk around in their fancy dresses and their big hair. And then we had the fire marshal who would walk around. And he drove like an old, like 1800s fire truck up and down Main Street. And every once in a while, I'd hear when I was there working, he'd come stomping in. He was kind of a bigger guy, with the fire hat and the overalls, But the old fire truck would come up and he'd have the siren going on and ringing his little bell and stuff. And he'd stop in front of our shop and he'd come in, give me some shit, and then immediately like turn around and leave and keep going up down Main Street. It was always funny.
Right. There's a fire department up in Jerome, and they have a truck from like 1918 or something.
Hell yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, I love those
Every
old
year
fire trucks.
4th of July, they drive around and ring the bell. They don't even, it's so old. They have one of those old crank Claxton sirens. It's not even electric.
Yeah, that's what this one has too. Yeah, totally.
It's so cool.
Yeah, I love that shit. Yeah, that's awesome. So, but it's still cool, man, that you get to like continue the space that you're in and kind of evolve it into this new venture that you're going on, and it's exciting.
I had. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say with the restaurant side of things, like what's your wife looking at doing with the restaurant?
My wife cooks like absolutely amazing Asian food. I cannot speak. And we're gonna do bao buns.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with those.
Oh yeah.
The little steamed buns. Yeah, of course, Florida. You guys actually have food options. Out here in Arizona, we're in like a desert where everything's like pizza joint, McDonald's. Just like son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Especially up here where we're at, where it's just tiny. You know what I mean? Like we live in a valley that's 3 little towns and maybe 15,000 people. It's itty bitty.
Heck yeah.
But so she's gonna do like bao buns, and then she's got like an Asian mix of things that she's gonna do, and we'll do like a little service counter restaurant. So that we focus mainly on to go because of COVID and everything.
Yeah, it's smart. Yeah, that's why I find it interesting with what you're doing, because you're doing all this like in the middle of a pandemic. Which I think is 2020's been the year for people to really stop and reflect on their life. Like, is this job I have what I want to be doing? And like, are there things that they you wanted to do forever? Like, now's a good time to maybe start looking at that again. I think it's and for those that are actually following through with it, like yourself, I think are the ones that are going to be highly successful in this next wave of humanity that we have.
I certainly hope so. I'm not even I tell everybody I'm not trying to get rich. It would just be nice to be able to be stable, comfortable, and I've never taken a vacation in my life. That'd be an interesting thing to do.
Oh man, I just took one finally for the first time in like I couldn't even tell you how long. It's just take a vacation, dude.
Yeah.
If you work your ass off, you deserve it.
It's like with my family when I was a kid.
Right.
It's the last time I can remember being like, hey, we're gonna go just like escape and do something. And everybody always gives me shit. They're like, well, you take a vacation when you go to Vegas. I'm like, yes, this giant stress-filled adventure where I go try to sell things to people who are getting tried to, pushed on by every other glassblower known to man. That sounds like a vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
No, like, yes, it's fun. No, it's not stress-free.
No, yeah, working vacations can be fun, but yeah, it's not a true vacation where you can just turn everything off.
Yeah, and I've never, So that'd be an interesting thing. And if nothing else, like it'd be nice to just accomplish a lot of the goals that we wanted to do forever. And I never foresaw myself even remotely being able to own this place or do anything like this. And I don't know, when I was a little kid, I always kind of had like little pipe dreams of like running a family business, never had any concrete idea of what that would entail. But my parents had always said that they bought this place and were renovating it and everything like that as a retirement plan. And so I had literally always assumed that no matter what, the end result would be, my dad would sell the place. And so coming into this situation where my father's kind of having a hard time, with his health and everything, and can't really, do what he wanted to do with the place to renovate it and sell it exactly the way he wanted. This is really kind of awesome to come in and be able to make enough money to potentially like maybe buy it from them and have that family business that I kind of always dreamed of as a little kid.
Yeah.
It's just a very odd and yet wonderful moment in my life to where I'm like, I just keep putting it out there. Like, this is what I want. And life keeps going, well, here's an enormous amount of work you could do to make that happen.
And that's what it takes.
Just go, okay. It's just like, all right, I just put my nose to the grindstone and get it done one day at a time. And then I look up later and I'm like, oh shit, like for this year, for example, like I've made probably 5 or 6 times as many pieces in this year than I have in the last 5 or 6 years combined.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Absolutely. I know like my situation is a little bit different, but I guess not, because like, you treat your glass like it's a full-time gig, but you also were working on top of your glass blowing too, weren't you?
The last time we talked, I was doing, I think I was still at the cannabis farm.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds right.
And that was fun. It didn't pay worth a damn, but it was fun. And it was stable, and that was my concern for a long time, was just stability. And in a lot of ways that was nice. And like the connections and I made at the farm, and the people I met, everything like that, wonderful, and I love it. But it's really, really nice to, like, have your destiny in your own hands, kind of thing, to be dramatic about it. But like every day it's up to me to succeed or fail. And there's something really awesome and terrifying and everything all at once about that.
Yeah, it's so true. But like we said, dude, it's been 3 years since we did this, the last interview, and like we both said, in 3 years, so much has changed. Not much, not individually, and also as like for the world. So it's like you're saying, next thing you know, you just keep your nose to the grindstone, you keep working and working and working, and hopefully, as long as you're, you can work all day long, but as long as you're doing the specific things that you need to get done to get to that point, then that's what's important. And then eventually you're fucking there, and
right.
You still got to work hard.
Like, last time we talked, I think we were like, it was right at kind of the near end of the big bubble, where it hadn't quite like popped yet, but everybody was like, oh shit, it's popping,
Yeah.
And that was like, my work was getting so outpaced price wise, because I was just sitting at the same price that I wasn't selling shit, because everybody's like, no, I want something that's $1,000, or I want, you know what I mean? And then all the other people were like, well, fuck that. I don't even like headies anymore because these people are crazy. I'm just going to go buy a $50 Chinese bong. So like, I got stuck in the middle where I was just like, well, nobody's buying my shit, for a while. And then, so like, it was very kind of strange again. Like after that bubble burst, it really made my stuff more appealing because I hadn't moved.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's the whole key to really business, is just consistency. Whether it's prices or and riding those waves, but keeping your price points at a reasonable price. Those that obviously had the success when they were getting paid $30,000 and $40,000 for a fucking pipe, which is crazy. It is what it is, and it's whatever. But as you're saying,
I commend them if they could get their foot in the high end market, into that like little upper echelon, where the people who are buying your shit literally have no fucking care for money.
Yeah.
Well, good for you, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just don't like dragging the industry along with it and then leaving them behind, and it's not like that's an intentional thing by anybody. And it happens in all industries, but it just sucks to see in such a little industry like we have, where it's just, so many people get affected.
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of like the newer glassblowers within like the last 3 years or so came in because they saw those numbers and not realizing, what was actually going on behind the scenes. And then all of a sudden, the wave crashes, and now we're all trying to keep our head above water and see what happens with the industry. And it seems like things have kind of balanced themselves out. Now with COVID, it seems like things are becoming more personal, and not in a bad way, but like in an intimate sense, with your customers and your stores and stuff. And with live streaming and staying in contact. I think this year has probably been, for me, the worst communication year I've had, like in terms of staying in touch with people. Like it's just, it's nothing I'm not paying attention to. It's just times just like going by so weirdly and fast, and like not knowing what the hell date is. And
dude, it's like it is running, and yet falling as slow as molasses on a fucking cold winter's day at the same time. Right. I just do not understand this year.
Yeah, it's like it's December 1st. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like the middle of the year, right before the election, just was like, oh my God, can we just get to tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah, literally, can we get to tomorrow?
But it's funny because like on a lot of other years, you look back and you're like, where did the year go? And on this year, you're like, thank fucking God.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe next year we'll have some better shit happening.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be a rough start to next year. We'll see how these COVID numbers happen, and the winter and stuff like that. But as things kind of hopefully settle down for next year, and the election's over with, and hopefully a civil war doesn't break out amongst all this other fucking bullshit.
Yeah. That whole thing drives me batshit crazy. And just like, I was an independent for a very, very long time, and I just try to, vote for the side of common sense and decency, I guess, whichever one that happens to be at the time. Yeah. And the last few years have been so just mind-bogglingly insane with what people are willing to accept. It just does not make any sense to me. And I guess it should make sense because we all saw it on like smaller state and rural levels forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense that it could happen on a larger scale just as easily. But I don't know. It just kind of blindsided me. Like I live in a very red part of this, state, and Arizona's just, I mean, we're kind of purple, but we've been extremely Republican for so long. So it's really weird to see how like very, very angry people get about things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like I get super pissed and I draw the line at like, racism and sexism and things like that. And I will like get super mad at you, but I'm not going to get mad at you because you like some politician. I might like be mad that you don't, understand that this thing he said was fucked up or something, but I'm not going to be like, I hate you because you're Republican. Like, I just find that to be appalling and strange.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, because even like with Trump, he's the fucking dickhead as it is, and like, coming in as a president. But like, I was like, cool, let's give this guy a chance, But then like policy started happening, and then like hearing his bully big mouth, flapping at the gums, and I'm like,
he's one of the very few people that I was not really ever willing to give a chance to, just because of his attitude over all the years. I was like, how is this guy even an option?
Yeah, exactly.
It's insane.
Yeah, and like lack of leadership, and that's been my whole issue with the whole thing, is like the lack of leadership, the bullying, and then those that are in the same mindset that think it's okay. That's where I've had my qualms with, including amongst family members that I haven't spoken with in months now because of all this shit.
The exact same thing. Very close ones that I don't have a relationship with anymore, because it's just like, no matter what the conversation is, it just comes back to that again. You're like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. I'm tired of talking about the weather, so let's talk about some real life shit, but not politics,
Yeah, exactly. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, so
it's a crazy year.
What was that?
Oh, it's just been a crazy year, is all I was saying.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I wanted to back up too, just for those that didn't listen to the first episode. So you started blowing glass when you were 10?
Right? I was like 9. Yeah, I think I was 6 or 7 when I first found Zach at the Arizona Renaissance Festival. My mom's an amazing jeweler when she wants to make stuff, and had a booth down at the Renaissance Festival when I was a kid forever. And that was a big part of my childhood, was, just going down and being a Ready kid for a couple of months a year. It was just always amazing and fun. And I'd just go down, basically live down there with mom, before I was going to school. And then after I was going to school, she'd usually break me out of school for the 2 months and just take me down there. And I just met Zach because I've always been interested in creating things, like artistic things, mechanical things, construction things, doesn't matter. Like, I just like making stuff. And so even as a little kid, I would go, and I think that's where a lot of that was formed, is going around and watching all these other creators make stuff, in the behind their shops. And then also, like Zach as a demonstration artist. And I think I first saw the soft glass blower there making some really big vessels, and I thought that was really neat. And somebody who was there was just like, oh, well, go over here. And at the time they were really close to each other. They're like, right over there's the lamp working studio. You should go over there and check that out too, if you like the glass thing. And, I'm just like I said, I'm like 6 or 7. I just go wandering over there. And I guess I asked Zach like a billion fucking questions, just the normal little kid thing. Like, why does this do that? Is that hot? Just all the silly, stupid questions that everybody gets over and over and over and over again. And by the time I was 9 and showed up to, basically do the same thing on the first weekend, I'm sure on the first day, just like show up and be like, hey, Zach, what are you doing? He was just like, no more questions. I figured out who your parents are. I asked permission. Hey, come over here, make something. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to teach you how to make a marble. And I was just like super stoked and sat there all kind of scared, and like made this teeny tiny little marble that he has still sitting on one of his shelves at his house up in Colorado.
That's cool.
And and it just kind of, he saw how excited I was and how not afraid of the flame and cutting myself I was, because I was just dealing with that kind of stuff anyway with my dad working on cars as a little kid. Whatever. Things are hot and sharp. Never really bothered me. And so he sent me home with a National A1 hand torch with a couple of tips and one of those little, like vegetable flats that you get at the farmer's market full of random crap, full of like, little shorts of color and clear and stuff. And just kind of brought it with me to the booth and was just like, hey, I want to give this to him. Is that okay? My parents were like super stoked. And they're like, yeah, well, I mean, we've got all the equipment for this at the house. Like, we'll set them up when we get home. Because dad had lots of welders and mom's a jeweler. So like literally they had ventilation already. So all I did was just like set my little hand torch up next to my mom's soldering torch, which is the same little Smith Mini that I have. And sat there and made like little miniature penguins and dragons and all the little, carnival kind of glass stuff that Zach was doing. And I'd go back for those 2 months every year and go work for him. He immediately hired me as a demo artist. Like I think that first year when I was 9.
That's amazing.
Paid me like $100 a day to just sit there and make miniatures.
Hell yeah.
And then we spent $3 or something like that. And I guarantee I didn't make enough of them to make a profit.
Right.
But I drew a fucking crowd. I guarantee that too. I remember seeing pictures that, that people showed me of like, people all crowded around there just because it was like a little kid playing with fire. And they were like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, totally.
Like the grannies just being like, this isn't happening. And it was a really interesting way to get introduced to it. And it was really fun to be able to just kind of tinker with it for years as a little kid. I could forget about it for a month at a time and come back and be like, oh yeah, I can do this, when I wasn't doing like pottery or painting this or that, or building forts with my friends, or, just doing kid crap.
Yeah.
And then, when I did a year later, my dad was like, well, you can reach the squeegee across the windows now. So if you want a job at the station, you can have a job. And so I was just like, yeah, for sure. And we got a job at the station and saved money up and immediately just did that summer. And my birthday's in September. So I worked for him for the summer and saved up enough, like $500 or $600. And I was just like, hey, I want to buy a torch. And they're like, oh, we'll go 50-50 with you on a torch if you want. And I was just like, hey, that's cool. And they didn't realize I already had the money. I was just like, well, here's the money. And they're just like, fuck. I think dad sold him like one of his farms or something that he was working on. He's just like, just sell this sucker, I guess. And like they got me the major miner that I still use today.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
man.
And it was just like super cool.
And so like, seeing your current line of work, which I've been loving the style that you're doing. Where did you? Is that like a newer thing you've been doing like the last couple of years, or?
That just started this year, so
okay,
that was inspired by my wife. I was trying to make her something kind of fun and different for Mother's Day, and so I made a couple little like vintage inspired bottles that were stamped on the sides and just textured with some stuff that I had sitting around. Because I'd gotten one of those Jim Moore little stamp tools in. Like ABR is like, hey, here for $10 you can have this extra thing, at the end of the shopping.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'll take that. And so I was just kind of messing about with it and hadn't really gotten to the texturing thing too much. I had the little paddle that I used to make the base of the things with the little like pin frog kind of pattern. And just like 2 other things. And that was about it. And now I have like 30 stamps, I think.
Heck yeah. Are they copper?
Yeah. I have like 2 or 3 that are graphite, and they're okay. The graphite ones are much harder to use, and they just don't create those nice crisp edges. Like the way the brass cools the glass off as it like cuts into it, gives you a much sharper, cleaner edge. So I definitely prefer the brass ones, but I mean, if you fiddle fuck around with it, you can make it work with either one. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. I know like making turtle shells back in the day I've read for Rebus Brothers. We had a really nice brass like clamp mold style that had 2 sides to it to get the actual, you press your glass into it and made a perfect every time. And,
nice.
It was fucking amazing. But then we swapped over and it disappeared one day without getting into the story.
You find that sucker, man.
Oh, dude. I know who has it, but I don't know where he is. former one of our employees, but so we had to get a graphite one, and it's the same. It's like you're saying. It's like it's just the graphite wears out after a while. You have to replace them every so often.
Even when it was brand new, it just didn't.
Yeah,
like I've got tools. I bought an Anarchy side by side. You know what I mean? I bought one from the guy who I had already had made one, and then I had one custom made. And the one I had custom made out of brass cuts in so much better and looks so much nicer.
Yeah.
And then, you know, little details, for example, like I don't, you know, let's see here. I think my logo stamps are, I want to say like 30 millimeter. No. They're like 25 millimeter. And they've got like every itty bitty little detail of my Glastronaut and my Dabbit in them. And they show up in the impression.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, the details are there, but they you know, you can't get that impression. Like they actually show up, like all the little bits, all the teeth, all the eyebrows. It's really, really cool.
And that's the fun thing. And every time you'll get that too, which is nice.
Yeah. As long as you don't, fuck with it with the flame, it's there and it looks great.
Yeah. Who does your?
They take a little bit of a learning curve, like trying to figure out where to place things in the flame to put, like, if you're gonna do a bunch of them,
right?
Like the little pendants, and even like the stamped Marias that I do on all of the oil rigs I've been doing lately. Is that it can take a little bit of practice, like working your way around on Maria to not overheat it and get it floppy, and also to heat the individual spots and press the hollow shape. And not have, because you're trying to heat the outer layer of the glass without heating the inner layer of the glass, basically.
Yeah, not pushing the inner wall in at all.
Exactly. So that way you got that, you can't cut a shape on top of Jell-O, basically.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to use your cookie cutter to cut your Jell-O star, you can't put it on a Jell-O plate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be on something stiff. So it's the same idea. Like you got to heat it up just enough and quick enough to where the surface is hot, but the underlayer is stiff enough for you to give you that resistance. And it just takes a little while to learn that. And I think people just don't, because I've heard it from a bunch of people. They're like, I just really don't like those tools, or they don't work. And I'm just like, well, even the ones that, like Karen from Leonardo Lampworking, we traded for a whole bunch of them, and she said half of them, she was like, I don't even know if these ones are going to work in Boro because of how tiny the details are and stuff. Like, they work great, you just got to figure out exactly how hot to get it.
Yeah, it's all trial and error. I mean, that's just glass in general.
Exactly. And if you can't do that, I don't know. I think it's the same argument that people get when they're like, I hate those joint forming tools, and it's like, do you get it hot enough?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, what?
Or using beeswax, like there's so many little variables that are involved in the process, and you got to eventually just put all the variables out there and then see which ones work and get rid of the ones that don't.
Exactly.
That might take you 100
but
things.
That's what this whole series was inspired by, was that making those Mother's Day gifts for Ella, and then kind of going from there and being, everybody kept asking me as I was making, hey Dad. My dad and his cat just walk by. His cat follows him like a dog, and it's cute.
It's hilarious.
Well, he's going through chemo again, and his cat's like super concerned for him. So his cat like literally wanders around to make sure he's okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but and it's been a really fun, series, and everybody like kept asking me when I was going to make a functional one. And I figured, I'll make one. It'll be like half the other things people ask me to make. It'll be like sit on the shelf for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the first one, and I was like, wow, this thing's really cool. And ironically, it has been 6 months, and it's sitting right here with the two that I made after it. But I have sold 200 and something of them since.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, they look great, dude, because the fuming that's going on, like it really just makes everything just pop. You can really play around with the layering aspect of what you're working with there too.
Yeah. And even if you just use silver or just use gold on them, like all the texture traps all that stuff in such a different way that you get a different kind of color base than you would. If you think of like, I think it's Billy Bob Glass or whatever that does the no fume tech. You can kind of get a similar effect where you can strike out colors that you would otherwise not be able to get because they're not directly exposed in the flame. They're trapped in the little crevices that you made. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I used to use back in when I was trying to figure out the silver fume honeycomb pattern. I was always getting like this muddled, just looking shit, and instead of it actually growing inside the glass like you're supposed to do or whatever to get those pinks and the oranges and stuff. So I just started using like North Star yellow to get that effect, and it came out pretty similar, or like Purple
Yeah,
Passion,
I know a
or
lot of
something.
people that move to just doing like transparent colors over
Yeah.
things because of that, because they just want consistency, and I understand that. I've never had a problem with fuming. I don't know why. I can't really say that I have a different technique than anyone else. It might just be perhaps that I've done it for so many damn years.
Yeah, and your
But
torch too, which helps out. Like those
and,
major
yeah,
miners
that's
are
a big
good.
part of it. Yeah, I love this torch. Like everybody asks me when I'm gonna get a new torch, and I'm like, well, I mean, at this point soon, because this thing's going to fall apart. But I love that damn thing. It's my longest running relationship in my entire life, other than my family.
Yeah, me too. That's how mine is too. I haven't gotten rid of her yet.
I keep looking at those Mad Maxes and Hydras though, like.
So, do you prefer to run the Nortels?
I like Herbies too. I've played on a handful of GTTs and they're fun. Like I have really not met a torch that I don't like. But I'm comfortable with Nortels.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
The Bethlehems are the ones that I kind of am a little further away. I taught at the melting point in Sedona, and we had 13 or something like that. Bethlehems there, and they're wonderful torches. I just don't like how easy they are to fuck up for a teaching studio.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like that was the one thing I was like, oh my God, I had to, do all sorts of shit all the time because people get silver stuck in the ports, or people, they get glass stuck in the ports, or they'd overheat them, and they do silly things because they just weren't listening, and the reason I like the Nortel for all these years is I've taught so many fucking people on this damn thing, and it's a workhorse. It's hard to hurt,
Yeah, that's what I
and
feel
even
about
if
my
you
Carlisle.
hurt something, yeah, exactly. And even if you do hurt something, you can replace it yourself. You don't have to send it to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that. So, and I'll get to the point, hopefully pretty soon, where I have a handful of torches, and then I'll figure out which one to play favorites with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've been saying that for 20 years. It's still haven't jumped on the gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This year's the first year where I've had the financial opportunity to do it, and I've been sinking every dollar I make into the restaurant.
Yeah.
My apprentice, like, constantly, he's like, dude, when are you just going to fucking buy a new torch? And I'm just like, well, when the restaurant's done. And he just looks at me like I'm fucking insane. Like, even somebody the other day, I forget whose post it was on. Oh, Hendy was selling his Herbie that he didn't use for a while, and me and Sean have been buddies for a long time, so I was just like, I want it, you know what I mean? I was just like, damn, I wish I had the money for that thing. And Brian Jacobson commented
Hey,
on it.
Austin, real quick, dude, your mic's being weird. I don't know if it's your signal or.
Oh, here, let me walk over this way and see if that helps. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I think my signal is trying to bounce between phone and Wi-Fi for some dumbass reason. I don't know. But yeah, like, I was just commenting on Hendy's post or whatever, and even Brian Jacobson was just like, "Oh, I'll throw in for a torch for you." Like, I'll throw something. I was like, "No, knock it the fuck off." Like, but it's just like, it's been that long, and he was just like, "Well, we've known each other forever. You're still using that same fucking torch, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "God damn it!" It's like, sorry, I don't know what to say.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like the torch is like the kind of car you drive. It's like some of us just don't give a fuck because it still works and gets us from A to B.
Yeah, I drive a '68 Volkswagen that I put 400,000 miles and 5 engines in.
Oh man, that's amazing. I miss my Volkswagen so much.
Yeah, I love my Buck. Yeah, I totaled my wife's car because I was just an idiot and was like, I'll just take this car today instead of my car and go get oxygen because it's easier to get the tanks in the back. Smash.
So last time we were trying to get this set up, and we've been trying to set up this chat for like, it seems like a year now, probably. But the last time we actually almost got it done was when you got into that wreck. So you had oxygen tanks in the car too?
No, luckily I was pulling into Napa and I was going to grab some.
Oh, thank God, man. Fuck.
Yeah. The way I got hit, it wouldn't have been a thing. But I don't think the fire department and police would have been too happy about it.
Yeah.
Luckily, I know the guys at Napa well enough. They probably would have ran out and been like, "Give me the tanks."
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, man, that's something because I know, like, when I put my tanks in the back of my truck or SUV, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I always make sure that they're behind the passenger seat, laying down flat, not behind my driver's seat. Because there's been times where they've been behind my driver's seat, and I'm like, God, if I ever got rear-ended or had to stop and this thing went flying and smashed me in the back and snapped my spine or some shit, it's just sketchy.
Yeah. I'm always worried about that, but then I'm not super worried about that because my buddy Dustin, who used to own one of the oxygen companies, I watched him beat on the end of one with a sledgehammer to try and fucking do that, and he couldn't even do that. He's a big motherfucker. And I was just like, wow, those things are a lot tougher than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Granted, I'm not going to assume that one that's been sitting around at a refilling station for years isn't rusty as fuck and ready to blow.
Right.
But I was fairly impressed at that point as to how well that held.
Yeah.
He was literally just trying to destroy shit. He's like, we're going to fuck this fucker up. He was like going out of date or something like that. And he couldn't get it redone for whatever reason. I don't even fucking know. Either that or he was just drinking that day and decided he was going to destroy things. He was an interesting fella.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, he owned the distributorship for Praxair in town for years.
Nice.
And when he decided to move out of town, I convinced the guy at Napa Auto Parts to take it over, which is why I go over there to get oxygen, and they give me a smoking deal on it because I've got them the account.
Yeah, hell
15 years ago or whatever. They've even changed owners and shit, and even the new owner's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna give you that same deal. I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's nice, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's nice because it's a good deal and it's still on paper, so I can do taxes. Because like I could get cheaper oxygen, but I couldn't do anything with taxes with it. It's like cheaper oxygen with no receipt.
Yeah, they just cost you more.
Yeah, I was just like, well, so okay, later at the end of the year, I'm going to pay twice for this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's smart. That's for sure.
Yeah, more paperwork, better. I will take it. Is it a pain in the ass? Oh yeah. Do I like it? Oh hell no. But whatever, it saves my ass.
Yeah.
And like I was saying about buying the building, I got to get everything above board. Make sure that as much of my income as possible is accounted for and taxed and all that, so that when I go to the bank and be like, hey, I want to buy my dad's business, they'll be like, yeah, no problem, instead of being like, no, you crazy stoner, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, having that paper trail, man, is huge. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, especially being the only income, because after Ella quit, it's just been me since whatever, May or June or whatever it was. Which is, like I said, everything's been so busy. It's been perfect.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of wanting to transition to. Is so you start this new line of work, and like I said, the first 3 that you made are sitting on your shelf still, but then they started to sell. And I know once this whole COVID thing started and everybody got locked down, a lot of live streaming started happening. And I always see, because I actually follow your alerts on Instagram, so I'm always seeing you. You're coming up at night, doing live streams and stuff. And was that part of what helped you kind of move this line forward and start actually getting the sales on it?
A little bit. Like I've done fairly consistent live streaming for years. And I have on Instagram, I'm lucky if I get 5 people. You know what I mean? Like I for some reason, I almost always go on. I try to get on there at least an hour or so when I'm in the studio at any given time. If I hop on Facebook, I'll get 50, 60 people. It's a weird difference.
Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't generate a whole lot of sales from that. I really enjoy engaging with the public. I think it goes back to the whole demoing as a kid thing. And being really comfortable demoing as a kid. Zach always said, he's like, man, you were the easiest person to convince to demo. You just be like, do you want it? And you'd be like, demo? I was always all about it. I'll sit there and bullshit with people and blow glass until I fall down dead because I didn't eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally.
I love it.
Yeah, I get it, man. I love it. Yeah, that's part of my job.
Yeah, I'm sure you know exactly how that feels because of the whole job. Yeah. So yeah, I forgot where I was at there.
Oh, just go talk about how you started to generate the sales for the new line.
Oh yeah. And so I generated a little bit here and there from that. Got a couple of custom ones where people were like, "Oh, can you do this?" But people who collect certain colors, kind of thing. And then X-Fade, I don't know if you're familiar with them on Instagram.
No.
They're based out of Tucson down here, and they do an enormous amount of online auctions. Oh my God. When I found them, I was like, whoa, these guys move some glass. They do anywhere from 5 to 15 auctions a day on their various accounts that they have.
No shit. Wow.
Oh, it's crazy. Like, and so, I contacted like a ton of people trying to get this out there, and I was just like, here's my prices, and my prices on these things are fucking super reasonable. So it that has also helped drive sales. Like I give shops a good deal, and in the first couple of months, I was giving really good bulk deals to try and like, just entice people to be like, hey, here, buy 10 of them at once, and I'll give you this. So that you have a better display, and each one will be a little bit different and unique. So nobody's going to come in and be like, this is a cookie cutter thing. They'll stand out from other stuff. So they'll sell faster, and all of that worked out. Like the first 3 shops that bought from me bought another 10 from me within like a month.
Hell yeah. That's great.
So I was like, that's awesome. But Xfade has bought more than half of all of the stuff that I've made this year.
Huh. Interesting. So are they buying them from you up front and then doing the auctions, or are they auction and then pay you?
No, they buy them from me up front.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I wholesale them to them, and they start the auctions slightly above wholesale or whatever, and go from there.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, and he kills it, like kills it. So yeah, I think he's bought almost 100 of these damn things this year.
Jesus, yeah, that's
and then
that's killer.
Like the little mushrooms, the drippy mushrooms that I do, he buys those like 50 at a time, that kind of thing. So it's been huge, strangely serendipitous luck with money in my life. I've never made a whole crap load of money, but anytime I actually legitimately needed money for something, like life was always just like, here's work. And this is a perfect example of that. Like as soon as Ella quit and was just like, hey, if I quit, can we try to do the restaurant thing, no matter however long it takes or whatever? And I was just like immediately like, well, fuck yeah, we'll figure it out. Don't worry about it. And life just turned around and was just like, yes, you will. Here's all this fucking work. Do that, and you'll get your goals done. And he, Tans is the guy's name down there. He's been very, very supportive and instrumental in that. And every time I have like a new design this year or something like that, because I tend to have a little bit of artistic ADHD, and I'll be like, I'll make this, I'll make that, I'll make this, I'll make that, I'll make this, I'll make that. And people will be like, when are you going to make this again? I'm like, well, how long ago did I make the last one? They're like 2 years. I'm like, ooh, I should probably go back around to that, There's hundreds of designs over the years. They're just all over the fucking map. But he is the type of shop that loves that, because the auctions appeal to so many different people, So he buys like, bloody hearts. He buys drippy, knives from me. He buys the mushrooms of a couple of different varieties, and dragon fangs, and these little fumed like leaf shapes. And I just like so much stuff. It's amazing.
Well, it's important too, because you have a diversified line of work. You're not just, putting all your eggs in one basket in a sense.
Very much so. I like to appeal to a broad base, and I like to appeal to a broad base on the grounds of money too. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to price everybody out of owning my work.
Yeah.
I also don't want to like make my work so cheap that I feel like I'm like whoring myself out.
Yeah, no, totally. I know. I'm in the same boat, dude. Like I have like my reasonably priced line of work, and then I have my high end line, and it's and then I have a wholesale production line. Like I started selling. My buddy Chris Piazza, he put together and started a distribution company. And so I just for myself, for security wise, because of the way work's been, I wanted to make sure I had a little extra income coming in. So I'm making wrap and rake Sherlocks right now, and I fucking love it.
There you go, buddy.
And
that's what matters, is you're enjoying yourself. Like, because I did so much production for years in the beginning when I was like, I met my first pipe maker when I was like 15 or something like that. I learned how to make a inside out fumey spoon. His name's Robert Oshling. He goes by Beto Fupemi. It's a silly ass name.
Yeah, it's
and he's a wonderful old school style. He does lots of old school line work and things like that. And I did that for a long time, and even then I was miserable doing it. You know what I mean? Like I'd sit there and make a pendant and be like stoked. And then I'd make like 50 spoons and be like, I don't like any of these. You know what I mean? And they were cool. There's nothing wrong with them. They were very functional and everything like that. It's just, like cookie cutter cranking out the same design over and over for that long of a period. I just got really tired of it.
Oh yeah, dude. Me too. Like the 13 years of production I did, like it burnt me the fuck out. And then I was doing the same thing at Disney. So like right when you and I recorded, that was like my last year before I took a break of pipe making just because I got so burnt out. It was like, okay, time for a reset and get my brain out of the production mode of things, because it was like, okay, what am I making today? And it's like, oh, I'll make 5 of these. I'm like, no, I need to make 1 of this instead.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, and that's how I am with the poison bottle rigs. Like I come in here and I'm just like, I want to make 5 to 10 of them a day.
Yep.
And then people are like, you make 5 of those in a day? And I'm like, well, if I'm like, on my shit, like I make 10 in a day,
Yeah.
But it's not talking to people doing live videos, and I have to like ignore my shopmate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like be in the zone.
But then it just seems like they're like, you like with this line that you have, like you have a basic canvas that you've created for yourself that then you can add, the adornments to it to make each one of them look individually and unique. But you still have it's still a production sense, that you have going. It's just not like a monotony.
Yeah, they all are like very cohesive the way they fit together. And yet, because of the fact that I think that the fact that I did it with the first ones, just being like, these are so vastly different in shape that everybody kind of expects it. And I love that. I love being able to be like, oh, I'm going to make a flask. Oh, I'm going to make this one look like a baby bottle. Oh, I'm going to make this one look like a Coke bottle. I'm going to make this one look like, a square elixir flask, and just like literally every single one of them like different, because there's like a cohesion among them. Yeah. But like, like you're saying, you look at them, you're like, oh, those are all made by the same guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But they definitely stand out from each other as well as things around them. And I really enjoy that, and I enjoy texture, when I go to pick something up, I love glass, and I love how smooth and sexy glass can be, but at the same time, glass can be almost anything. And, picking up like oil treated, matte finished sandblasted pieces, for example, is like very pleasing, and these have a very similar feature of like all of the little stamps. Like if you close your eyes and you just run your hands over a piece, all the little stamps give you kind of like a different feeling. You know what I mean? It's the same thing of having like a pocket marble, and then, that has like 4 or 5 different textures on it. So you can, rub your thumb across it, as like a little fidget toy kind of thing. Like it's the same thing. Like they're textured everywhere.
Yeah. And I dig it, dude. Cause it's interesting. Cause like going back to like when I was before pipe making, even before blown glass, when I saw like my first Inside Out, and it was like this potato shape hand pipe that had been smoked for probably 6 months, so it was like almost completely changed colors on the inside, but it was all like this crazy line work going on. I know now obviously how it was done, but at the point in time I was like, man, this is fucking amazing. But all the stuff was on the inside, so I'm like looking at it and feeling this smooth texture compared to like with your stuff. You have all this fun shit to look at on the outside, but you also have dexterity and tactile fun going on that you can experience besides just visually wise. It's like it's an overall sensation, because like at work, kids are wanting to touch all the glass all the time, and I was giving shit. I'm like, it feels like holding a glass in your hand, but then if it's textured and it's got some kind of something else going on, then they're really curious to see how does this feel,
Yeah, I've made a couple like decent sized marbles where I just like randomly stamp them, no theme, just like blindly pick this stamp up, put it on there. Blindly pick this one up, put that one on there, put this one on there, put that one on there, put this one on there. And then like, throw it in the kiln, take it out the next day and close my eyes and like rub my thumb across all of them. And it's crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
They get really crazy, and all those little fidget toys and I, like the autism toys and stuff like that, they make sense to me. It's just like my mind loves to like just kind of jitter around and do strange things, and having something to physically like touch and play with while, even right now I'm talking, I'm constantly touching and fiddling with things. When I work with glass, I'll sit there and like do a lot of the same things that you do when, you're demoing, where you like flourish and you like twiddle things around. And, it's part of, just kind of the way I demo, and part of just that fidgety kind of nature. And, so I think I have always personally looked for more things to fidget with. So the more I make them, the more I'm try to explore, like, how can I make these even like more different or cool, or just have, like I said, like that different tactile feeling about it. Because it's, like I said, it's amazing if you have the different textures, running your hands across them, like what kind of almost like mental notes you get, like music notes, you're like, kind of thing. And I imagine, like this one's kind of somber and that one's kind of happy. Obviously it's all, association based on my brain, but it's still there. You know what I mean? Like a worry stone,
Yeah, totally. And I think it's cool too, because I've always appreciated making something and then being like the first human hands to actually physically touch it when it comes after the kiln cycle, So it's got to be even more rewarding when you have like this fun patterns that you put together, and then next day you can take it out and actually get to experience the sensation of feeling what those textures feel like.
Yeah, most of the time I just take them and I'm just like, oh, this feels cool. And every once in a while I'll pick one up out of the kiln and I'll be like, ooh. You know what I mean? Like, What is that? What pattern did I use on that? Why does that feel like that? And it's an interesting exploration.
Yeah, it's fun.
And the tools are very versatile. Like, you don't have to like use them straightforward. Like 90% of the time I don't use the only one that I use like the full imprint of every time would be the skull.
Okay.
Everything else has some sort of variability where I'll like use half of it or the top or the corner, or just like use it over and over and then fire polish half of it away or something like that, just to get a completely different effect.
Yeah.
Like I use the dog paw a lot on the Marias, but you'll never find a dog paw on a Maria.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it makes little bubbles because the toes.
Right.
So it's neat. It feels cool. So it's like, yeah, I'll put that on there.
Huh, interesting.
And same thing with like, I don't know if you saw the little picture scene pendants that I was doing that had the stamps on them.
Yep.
I'll take like the flower stamp and put it on there, and then I'll take like the spiral stamp and make a sun out of it, and then I'll take the dog paw stamp again, and I'll use the top of the toes and at an angle, like stamp just the edge of the top of the toes over and over, and then flip it over and stamp the edge of the top of the toes again from the other side, and it makes cute little puppy clouds.
Huh, interesting. You could also use them for like little mushroom caps or whatever, shapes at the base.
Exactly. And like the mushrooms that I do, I just carve them with my little, what's it called, brass knife that I have.
Uh-huh.
And just because I used to doodle mushrooms and I want them to look like my old doodles from when I used to doodle on my homework as a kid.
That's funny. Yeah.
so that's, it's like just like a stylized thing. I'd love to get a mushroom stamp, you know what I mean? And have like put a little mushroom in there. But it's really fun to kind of explore with that too, because I'll just sit there with sometimes with them and just be like, okay, well, what's it going to look like if I use just the edge of this stamp over and over? And is it going to look like grass, or is it going to, because most of the grass I make with that little blade tool. But if you use the flower on the edge with the needle point tips, you can just like kind of poke it over and over, and you can make some like rougher looking grass, more choppy and things like that. It's just, it's fun to explore. And as I get more and more of them and get more into this whole thing, I think I'm going to do some larger scenes on the outsides of the tubes, like do a nice thick tube and then just like stamp like a whole little scene with like, flowers and a sun and moving grass and a tree and, just like try to get the whole 9 yards in there.
Yeah, and have it more intentional instead of being just like a random textures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you ever used like for us, some of the so kind of back up pre-Disney, I was all about not using tools. Like it was like my breath and my flame and the glass, and going into Disney and getting into more solid work compared to what I was used to doing. All of our artists were using impression tools and for eyes and different textures and stuff. So it really got me looking at their tool bag and what they would got. So I got like a set of like copper tubing that you could use for like, I think they were for remote control cars or something. But they're great because you can cut them and bend them and make different ovals and different shapes for eye sockets and just whatever, you can use with them for. And then Jimmy Dills, one of our artists, he told me to go to like Michael's or any other craft store, and you can get a roll of I think it's a copper roll that people would use for making homemade cookie cutters. And then you can cut different sizes and just, I think he used like some kind of like JB Weld, or he somehow attached them to a pair of like hemostats. And then he uses them.
You can just braze them right on there.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and then he just uses them for like making eyebrow shapes because it's like it makes like a little wave, and you just press them into the face.
Yeah, I was wondering what those were made of. I've seen a couple old school guys who had those, and I was like, I'd never found them before, and I was like, they look homemade, but they also, like half of the tools we all buy look handmade.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get a tool in the mail and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, this is. All right, whatever.
Yep.
Like, I guess it works.
And that's the point. Exactly. But yeah, it was just, I think it was, Yeah, I think, and I wonder if you can find it on Amazon, as well, or something online retail wise, make it easier to get. But yeah, it was like a roll. You can buy like a roll of this stuff for making cookie cutters.
No, that's a great idea. I mean, with that in mind, you could just probably go buy copper flashing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's at a Home Depot or Ace right now. I guarantee it.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
You just cut it with a pair of tin snips.
Yeah, exactly.
Or well, it's copper. You can probably cut it with house scissors, but
yeah, probably
might be a little rough. No, that's a cool one. Like I said, I've seen people who had those little cut pieces of brass and copper, and I was always wondering, like, what the hell they were made of. So that's good to know. Yeah, I was the same way as you for a long time, though. I was very anti-tool, but I think that was more of a result of just me being a cheap bastard.
Yeah, probably mine too.
And being like, I don't want to spend money on myself. I'm the first person. I'll throw gold bars at my fucking family for Christmas. You know what I mean? But you try to get me to buy new shoes, and I'll throw my old shoes at you first. Fine, here, have the old ones. Fuck you.
Yeah, my problem is I'll go to Starbucks and spend $6 on a cup of coffee, but it's like I don't want to spend $6 on whatever else out there that was actually more beneficial for me.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like, I'll spend money hand over fist on weed, but then if I need something that's legitimate, I'll avoid it to the end of the earth.
Yeah, which
is stupid.
Yep.
But if it's somebody else, I'll immediately, and I'll be that person too who'll be like, well, why are you doing that? Don't do that.
Right, exactly.
Like, here, let me help you. Like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, so like my wife and I, when we first met, we both were spenders in a sense, and now I've become semi-frugal. I say yes to her for everything she wants, more or less that she wants to get in a sense, but yeah, I've become a little more frugal.
Yeah, I've always been frugal, but this town is always been when the Great Repression, when the last Repression happened, we didn't really change.
Mm-hmm.
The town just stayed the same.
Yeah.
All the prices for all the houses went down really far, but everybody just did the same thing they did.
Yeah, 2008, I guess that was.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just everything tanked around the country, but we were already there.
Interesting.
So it just kind of came down to our level, and we're just like, "Oh, hi guys, how's this feel? It sucks, doesn't it?" I was talking to my apprentice yesterday about it.
Oh, your signal's getting weird. Did I lose you?
Are you there?
Yep, there you are.
All right, sorry about that. I need to stop walking to the other side of the room like a silly person. But I was talking to my apprentice about it, and he was asking me, he's like, well, if Ella and the kiddo weren't around, how much money could you live on? And I just very, very quickly, I was like, about $3,500. And he looked at me and he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's how much it cost me to live before, the year before me and Ella got together. I made $5,000. And he was just like, are you fucking kidding? And I'm like, no, that was my income for the full year. And he was so flabbergasted that I could survive off of that.
Yeah.
Because it was right after he had told me some crazy exorbitant money he had to spend on just weed that year. And I was like, I kind of looked at him. I was like, you're fucking insane. You know what I mean? I thought I smoked a lot of weed. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And so yeah. And I'm not going to say you should live that way. It's kind of miserable. All I ever did was just, work and then stay at home, because that's all I could afford to do.
Right.
But
the sacrifices though are paying dividends now.
Yeah. Well, and I know, whenever something comes around and I can't afford it or something like that, it doesn't stress me out.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm like, well, I don't need that.
Yeah.
Cause I spent lots of years not having it anyway. It's well, I was alive then. I didn't die. I'll be all right.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. We could survive off of very little.
Yeah. And I cooked everything from scratch for years, and that saved me an enormous amount of money.
Heck yeah. Yeah, that's good shit. It's important. Speaking of that, do you guys have a timeline in terms of getting the restaurant going?
We were hoping in October, but that was a little while ago.
Yeah.
It was a kind of a monetary thing as I, was in between large orders we had like a little bit of a lull, and so everything got kind of put on hiatus. And then my dad, we had to wait for him to fix the roof, because the roof had needed to be redone for about the last 10 years or so. And he had lined up people to do it, and they just finished doing that at mid-November or something like that. And so we had to at least wait until then. And so right now I'm just kind of waiting for some workers to come help me do a little bit of drywall and stuff like that, because I got to do like a sand finish, and it's a big pain in the ass, and I'd rather just pay somebody else and stand here and make buttons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, way better.
Yeah, I don't like doing drywall on a ladder. If it wasn't the ceiling, I'd probably be like, whatever. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
I've done it enough times. Yeah, I've patched literally the same 2 holes in this roof. I have patched them by myself 8 times over the years, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to do it tonight. Like I'm at a point where I could just be like, wave money at somebody else. Like, here, you want to do this?
Yeah, and then you could, like I said, you could be working while they were doing their thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because I make enough money to pay them easily in the amount of time that they're here. Like, that's not a problem anymore.
Yeah.
So, but so hopefully by the end of the year, we submitted most of the paperwork the other day. The town is so like happy and jazzed that we're doing this. It's really cool, because in past years I have heard so many horror stories. It's like most small towns. Like you hear horror stories about how the town just like won't let anything happen. Where everybody's just like, oh, I want to build this thing, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
So
no,
it was
I've
really
been
nice
there.
to go to them. Yeah, it was really nice to go to them and just be like, I'm going to move my studio over and build a restaurant there, and they'd be like, okay, here's the paperwork.
Hell yeah.
No questions asked, no nothing. They're just like, here's the paperwork. Tell us how we can help. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah. If you start building something structural, come buy a building permit. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
And even the building inspector, he was over at they've got a new brewery bar hotel thing that came up across the street that's super nice, and he was over there the other night. I just happened to wander in, and I was just like, hey, what are you doing? When are you going to come over there? And he's like, when I feel like it, I'll come here. I'm just like, this is the guy that everybody hated for years. That it was just like, everybody's like, he's the devil. He's going to come and shut your project down. You know what I mean? And he's like, no, I like you. You're fine. But I was also always the in between person for my dad in the town. And my dad, I love my father to death. He's an amazing man. He is also a stubborn old jackass who is set in his ways, and he was raised in the 50s, and he thinks it is still the 50s. So dealing with him can be a little bit difficult at times. He's super nice, but man, is he stubborn and very, very like straightforwardly gruff. So yeah, he doesn't mince words. And when he thinks he's right, he doesn't hesitate to tell you.
Yeah, so he needs a little bit of a liaison to work with the local officials.
Yeah. As soon as I became old enough to realize like what their whole situation was and how like frustrated they were with him, trying to get him to do like very minor things, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'll take this over, no problem. And he would come over like complaining about how they gave him some sort of list of things he had to do, and he was all mad about it. He shouldn't have to do any of them or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, where's the list? And he's like, I don't have it. Because he knows that I'm gonna do all this stuff. He's like, I don't want you to take them kind of thing. And I'm like, And so I would just wander over to the town, just because, it's fucking 2 blocks long. I just walk over to the town hall and just be like, all right, where's the list? Print it out again. Give me the list. And then I would just start knocking out, as like a 16, 17-year-old kid or whatever, just start running around knocking out as many things as I possibly could. And then going over there and telling them like, hey, I got this. I got this. I got that one done. You know what I mean? And after, doing that for a while, they were much more amenable to anything that I kind of pitched to them. They're always just like, yeah, if we can help you, just let us know.
Heck yeah. Be in their good graces, man. That's so important.
Yeah. Well, and I love this town. Like, I've literally lived in this town my whole life. I lived in my mom's house until I was like 23 or something like that. And then they had gone through the divorce, and she was having a hard time, and she got really hard to live with. And her boyfriend at the time, like, didn't want me around, even though I was like paying her rent and helping her do stuff. So I was like, well, whatever. And I moved up here and built an apartment in my dad's, in the warehouse he has in back, and was living up here for a while. And then when I met Ella and she got pregnant, like right back down to mom's house. So I literally, other than a very brief stint where we lived in Cornville, one of the neighboring towns, we've lived in this town my entire life. And so it's hard for me to not love this place.
Yeah. Your heart and soul's there, and it's cool, man. Like you guys, you're getting some new things established in an old space that people are familiar with. You're not just
everybody's super, super happy. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. 90% of people are super, super happy that I'm here and doing this.
Yeah.
There's a few little like bitter people around town, who wanted to buy it from Dad and do something, and he basically told them to fuck off. And so they don't like that I'm here doing this. And then there's a couple bitter people about town that just don't like that I make pipes in public.
Yeah,
because I'm like right in the middle of public. But it's like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I mean, I make pipes, but I also make a lot of other things. And when I do demos, I don't sit here and make bongs in front of children.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And if I do, they don't look like a bomb.
Right.
They look like a dragon or something cool.
Yeah.
And I put the downstem in after everybody leaves or something. You know what I mean? Like, just make it easier, less of a headache.
Yeah,
but the art. This is a tiny little town of artists, basically, and the art community around here has been very robust as far as like supportive and stuff like that. The money hasn't ever really been here, which is kind of strange, being so close to Sedona, and Sedona being such a high income thing. But at the same time, it's like whatever. There's lots of little like support here. I've literally seen people get old and die. I've seen people's kids grow up into adults, and I've watched this town stay exactly the same.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Huh. Yeah, especially working the Renaissance Festival too. Over the years, back then, you still, like you're saying, you see the families coming through that you see every year, and you expect them to be there the next year.
Yep. Yeah. And it's weird. Yeah. And that, people ask me about that all the time, because we were one of those families who's like, what happened to you guys? Are you okay? I'm like, no, we're fine. We just, mom didn't do her jewelry anymore. And they're like, oh, all right.
Is that Ren Fest still going on?
It's the third biggest one in the country.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. It's crazy. Yeah, I love going down there. It's weird to be a patron though.
Yeah.
Because I'll immediately start going to like walk around backstage and stuff, and they'll be like, what are you doing? I'll be like, oh, that's right. I don't work here anymore. Fuck.
Yeah, I think I'll be the same way when I'm no longer working for Rebus, going to Disney as just a regular guest, even though I do it all the time now, but still wanting to be like, here's my pass, I can go backstage real quick.
Right.
Not being able to.
Yeah, that'd be super weird. Like I remember like people trying to bust me as a kid for being in like quote unquote the wrong areas at a Renaissance Festival, and I just pulled my little green card out, and they'd be like, whatever, kid, have a good day.
Hell yeah.
And like, so and that was such a like the backstage experience over there is probably very similar to like what you're dealing with over there, where you go backstage and it's fucking interesting as shit.
Mm-hmm.
You're finding like all the crazy motherfuckers practicing their acts and stuff, and the craftsmen doing their stuff, and people training their dogs, and the elephants and camels and shit just hanging out, and you're just like, well, this is weird.
Yeah, man, the Ren Fest life, like when I did it for one year, one season. Was it one season? Yeah, I guess it was the one season I actually worked it, and yeah, man, the Ren people are very interesting people for sure. Lots of different personalities. Yeah.
There is. I mean, it definitely attracts a certain type, and they tend to be batshit crazy. Yeah. But most of them are also very loving. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there's very few people I've met in the Rennie circuit that are actually like predatory. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or actually there because they can't do anything else.
Right. Exactly. They're there because they want to be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and that's I mean, that's a lifestyle that's so fucking hard. You kind of have to choose your way into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think anybody, even in a hard situation where they couldn't get other jobs, I don't think they would go and choose that lifestyle unless that's, they fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Because it's so fucking weird, and the rules behind like all of the Renaissance, they're so arbitrary and strange, and they change all the time from fair to fair, and Yeah, and then the customers are basically, I mean, you're dealing with like a state fair crowd, so like,
Oh, your signal's
try
getting.
to sell a brand piece of art to a state fair crowd. It's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
weird one.
Because I know like we couldn't have like wear watches or have like modern coffee cup, coffee mugs out. Like everything had to be like time period and like even like talking dialogue wise. I still can't do it, but trying to
Yeah.
speak in the Rennie speak. It's
Hello, my lord.
yeah, it's very interesting.
Hello, my lady. Would you like to buy a ring?
Yeah.
Yeah. Too many years.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my first job for my mom, was selling rings to people.
Hell yeah. That's
That was fun. We had my dad's buddy Terry. He was the best. He dressed up like a pirate, got hellaciously drunk, stand out in the middle of the alleyway, and like people had two responses to him. They would either think he was hilarious and come in the shop because he was heckling them to come in the shop, or they would be avoiding him like the plague and come into the shop because they had to walk around him. And he just get fucking schlitzed. He'd stand there and he'd be like, "How's my lady? A fine lady needs fine jewels. Would you like to do some, please?" And he'd just be like, just falling down drunk and just be like, he's like running around doing pirate speak, like, "Arr, buxom wenches,"
It's like having Jack Sparrow outside the shop or something.
Oh my god, yeah, but even more drunk.
Yeah.
And there was this gal who was one of the actresses, and I like, she's kind of scary looking, but at the same time, like wonderfully nice lady, and just gigantic tits, and probably like nearly 7 foot tall with the big lips. And she would always run up and be like, "How you doing, Terry?" and grab the back of his bandana and shove his head in her tits and go, and then fucking walk off. And he would be like, "Oh, oh, oh."
It's awesome.
He wouldn't be able to deal with himself.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Have you guys come up with I was wanting to ask earlier about the restaurant. Have you guys come up with a name yet for it?
Yeah, it's called The Bow is Out There. Like the truth is out there, and we're gonna have like an X-Files theme for like some menu and stuff. It won't be like kitschy, obviously, but just like a little touch here and there. My wife likes the like classier, clean look for things, and I don't know. She likes the Swedish style where it's like mostly white, but like a couple little splashes of color.
Mm-hmm.
So the restaurant itself will be, it's mostly just like a commissary kitchen.
Okay.
All of our seating will be outside where like the pumps are. But it'll be nice and like clean looking. But then the logo will be like a little, like a bow bun that's a UFO, beaming up a bunch of ingredients and stuff.
Yeah, I love that, dude. That's so fun.
Yeah, she's such a huge X-Files fan. Like I'd barely ever watched X-Files before we got together, and now I think I can quote it all. It's been 7 years of Seinfeld and X-Files.
That's funny. Yeah, it's all like I was like that with The Office. I never watched The Office until I met Julie, and she has like all seasons of it on DVD, like 4 different variations of it. And now I've like watched it on Netflix. I
couldn't deal with The Office before I got with Ella, and then she literally made me sit down and watch like an episode all the way through one day, and I was like, okay, I kind of get this.
Yep. Yeah, so, I've seen every season, every episode, probably 3 times now. Watching through Netflix. Just it's like our background TV show that.
Do you guys like vampires at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh yes, I've wanted to watch that. I heard it's amazing.
Oh my god! If she likes The Office and you guys like funny vampire shit, you guys are gonna fucking laugh your ass off at that show.
Hell yeah! Thanks for reminding me about that.
Hilarious. You gotta get that on, dude. You gotta, because it's basically The Office with vampires.
Interesting. Yeah, I've heard really really good things about it, and it's like a dark humor kind of thing. It's not for everybody, but those that love it fucking love it.
It's really not very dark. Like it's dark, but it's really not.
Okay, cool.
It's so fucking stupid and goofy, and like because it's basically, it follows like monsters in modern-ish day that live in Staten Island and have no clue about life. They still are basically trying to be 16th century vampires.
Interesting, yeah. Okay.
And it's not like they're being brutal and going around and murdering people, which they do in the show, but it's always like comical.
It's always like they're standing there, and then he'll be like, "Oh, I'm hungry," and he'll like run over and fucking like attack somebody in the bushes, and then come back and be like, "Oh, that's better." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not super like grotesque or anything like that. It straight up has the Office vibes.
Cool.
It feels like like Vampire Parks and Rec, or you know what I mean? Because it's got a documentary, and they literally mentioned the documentary crew the whole time. They're like, "Oh yeah, they're filming a documentary."
Huh. Interesting.
And yeah, that's what made me think of it when you said that. I was just like, "Oh, dude, if you guys like that format, this is that format with vampires."
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell her about that. Yeah, cool. Good to know.
It's been our studio background for a while. My apprentice was like dying laughing the other day.
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me about that. I need to write that down before I forget. I find it's fun too, man. Like the dichotomy that you two have, because like my wife, she's a pastry chef and has always wanted to have her own little spot. And same with myself. I've always wanted to have I had a gallery years and years and years ago, and we had a falling out with the guy we were co-leasing with, so it didn't completely get to where I wanted it to be. But
right.
that part of me is still wants to have that eventually, and so we've been same thing, kind of like, okay, in the next 3 years, minimum, I want to get to a point to where she can get out of work and I can potentially walk away from where I'm at, and we can have our own thing and live inside of our restaurant, gallery, coffee shop, glass studio place.
Hell yeah. Yeah, if we weren't living in a bus and I wasn't renting from Dad and had the opportunity to like kind of slowly do this never would have happened.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's it, man. The slow is better. Not rushing into it and spending a ton of money, and then all of a sudden it all falls apart.
Yeah. And that, and the at least a little caveat with that, like if I go and invest in this building and spend a bunch of money, at least I'm investing in a building I love, even if my dad goes to sell it.
Yeah, exactly. Is it still functioning as a gas station?
No, we stopped pumping gas. Like 8 years ago.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought it had been quite some time.
Yeah, it'd been a while. Dad hadn't really done anything with the gas since basically I stopped working as a gas jockey for him.
Okay.
That was like the final tipping point, was when I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I've done this for 15 years. I just kind of want to do my art. And he was just like, oh, okay. And he just kind of let the front not really fall apart, but just like go vacant. Mm-hmm. And then worked out of the back building, which isn't the non-historic warehouse that he has back there, that has lifts in it and stuff. And then I just helped him manage his mechanics for a couple years until I met Ella. And then obviously my priorities changed a lot.
Yeah.
I went from thinking I was going to be single and alone my whole life to falling vastly in love with somebody and having a kid in a very short period of time. So
yeah, life-changing for sure.
yeah. I was at such a point in my life at that point too. I hadn't dated anybody or done anything in 2 years, and I was just like, no, I'm done. I'm just gonna do my art and that's it, And so it was even more weird that she just kind of came into my life like that.
Yeah, sounds like
we knew each other as kids. We grew up together, kind of. We lived a few blocks away from each other, but I don't think we ever talked to each other once.
Huh, interesting.
Entire childhoods. And then she moved away and then ended up moving back and just kind of hitting me up. And yeah. I always make jokes to her. I'm like, I'm glad you didn't talk to me in middle school. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because you would have hated me and you never would have hit me up later.
That's funny. Yeah.
No. She's like, well, you are annoying. I'm like, yeah. It's somewhat intentional.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat, dude. I like to push and poke when I can.
My dad, I was raised in a field of sarcasm, so it's hard to shut that off, I guess.
Yeah. Same here. Yeah, it'll never go away. I get in a lot of trouble for it. So even at work, I gotta watch it sometimes because I'm like, I'll say something to a guest. People always I always laugh about people asking questions because the kids come over from England, and they're like, how long have you been blowing glass for? How many years? They'll actually ask a proper question. And so I'll give them a proper answer, but then the Americans come over and so how long have you been doing this for? And I'm like, well, I clocked in about 10:30. And they're like, no, I mean, and I'm like, I know what you mean, you dumbass.
Yeah. Speak properly.
Yeah.
I say may a lot, like may I have days and things like that, and people just look at me like I'm nuts. I'm just like, well, no, that's the way you're supposed to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Please, may I have?
Yeah, exactly. Not can you give me thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Hand reaching and grasping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hell yeah, dude.
Stan, you're 58.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. Like, I think it goes along with cursive writing, like learning how to write in cursive. It's kind of like those old traditions or old, proper ways of holding yourself, and out in society that kind of has gone by the wayside.
Yeah. And, I understand people's arguments with it too. Like a lot of people are just like, I just don't want to do that or whatever. And it's like, yeah, if you actively make the choice to like speak a certain way, speak however you want. You know what I mean? Just be, you got to be aware that like certain phonetic styles of speaking are going to make you sound different to certain people.
Yeah.
And, like a lot of people judge intelligence based on that, which is fucking stupid. But it is just how people are trained to, judge other people, and we're all trained to judge other people as a survival technique. So that, that's not going to go away.
Yeah. I'm just glad that the studies keep showing that those that use foul language and cuss words in their normal vernacular are actually intelligent.
Right. Well, they say it's very stress relieving too, because of the fact that a lot of times people, when they curse, they say they relieve stress that they otherwise would not relieve.
Interesting.
And so they say people that actively curse like tend to live longer.
Huh.
And it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, good to know.
Yeah, you got to get that shit out.
Yeah, it helps. That's for sure. Especially these days.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, I don't want to keep it going too long here, but yeah, I'm glad we got to catch up finally and kind of just shoot the shit. And it's not the normal interview style that I do, just because you've been on before, and it was just it's been actually about a month and a half, I think, since my last recording that I did. So it's been nice to get you on here and catch up and stuff, but also kind of help me get rid of my cobwebs. So I got like 4 interviews lined up for the next week and a half.
Hell yeah, man.
So yeah, I'm back on track and stuff, which I'm pretty excited about. And I've got the my Wise Guy TV I'm launching. I'm hoping to get it going I was hoping to have it done in November, but I got to get all my lighting and stuff for it. But I'm gonna be doing a bi-weekly YouTube series, just basically like a news show, and kind of covering the news and events that's going on in the glass, mainly in the borosilicate glass industry. I'm not just going to be covering glass in general. I want to try to niche it down some more, but just kind of I'm going to do a weather segment and share the new materials and products and sales, and kind of make it overall.
Events would be a big one, dude. Like, so one of the things that for years I've massively struggled with is knowing when galleries and shops are doing shows.
Mm-hmm.
And like what events there are around the country.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I had actually created a calendar on my website for people to like send me an email and say, hey, this is coming up. And I was trying to find a way for people to actually go to the calendar where they can actually plug their own events into it. And I just couldn't figure out, like, there's a way to, I probably have to spend money on it. But I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many, like, especially nowadays, these virtual and online gallery shows and stuff people are doing. And I want to try to help.
But it'd be nice to have like a reference, like you're saying, where you could just like be like, oh, what's going on in March?
Yep.
I'm gonna boop, boop, pop it up and be like, these 7 things are happening. Like, what could I potentially make it to, or be involved in, or donate something to a charity cause, which is the biggest one. Because I think I've been in one show in all these years. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like show. And it was, other than that, every event that I've ever done has been charity events. And I love charity events, and I would love to know more charity events. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just, and timing wise, it's easy to forget, So to have something like that where you're having the news and you're allocating all the information and stuff like that, if that was like even a small minor part of it, I think it'd be like a very useful tool for a lot of people.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it catches on, and it's going to also like part of it's going to help me promote the podcast too, because I want to have like with the Zoom and stuff. I could do it through Skype too, but being able to like have a quick little segment with the next week's guests for the podcast have a quick little video segment, kind of teasing the upcoming interview. That'd be fun too,
Right.
to kind of help promote
Well,
that.
I want to get like a GoPro set up in here, or just a nicer video setup. And then at that point, like at some point, if you wanted to do like a demo on there or just little video too, like,
Yeah.
myself, and I'm sure there's plenty of other glass workers that are in the same boat and be happy to like do a little blurb that leads you in, or whatever.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
have content to like throw in there every once in a while and be like, oh, we need to fill like 3.5 minutes. Here's so and so making a mushroom.
Yeah, like a lesson of the week or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'd throw time in on that anytime.
Yeah, that'd
you know
be
what I
great.
mean? I feel like Paul Taylor. I'm like an open book. Like you want to know in technique, just text me. I will tell you what I know about it. Like I don't care.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, we can maybe even just make that like a regular thing, like it's.
Yeah. So like like I was saying, like if you wanted to involve me or just anybody else, I would say just throwing ideas out there for you that you could potentially. I think that would be a really cool thing. That would be more engaging, keep people interested too. If at the end of the podcast or the show every time you're like, all right, here's thanks for hanging out as a thank you. Here's your little demo of the week or your tutorial of or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's a fun idea too from yourself. Yeah, we'll definitely talk further about that because I can help you get the setup so like you have a good filter on your setup too, so you can actually see what's going on. What I actually have done is I bought the lens, like the clips kit thingy, and I have an old pair of the rose didinium glasses. And
that's what I do. I just tape them on with masking tape.
Yeah, exactly. I do the same thing. Just use tape and just tape it onto my fucking thing, and it works out perfectly. And I think dropping the light levels down a little bit too helps out really see what's going on. So it darkens out everything around you, so you're not seeing your messy shop on top of it.
They like my messy shop. Every time I do like a downward angle that shows like all my shit sitting on the bench in front of me, they're all like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "What?" Like it makes no sense, but they're always just like super into it. I've got like 3 girls that like follow me pretty regularly on Instagram on the live videos, and they're always just like, "What's that tool? What's that tool? What's that tool?"
That's funny.
Yeah, so I just I sometimes people like to see that mess. They think that's like part of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
Whether it is or not, that's where they're at.
Yeah.
And I've heard lots of things about Mike doing that, just being very slow to respond and stuck in his own ways.
Yeah.
So that sucks to hear that. But one of my buddies, my brother went to film school a long time ago, so I got a couple friends who like are in the film industry kind of thing. And one of them told me he thinks you could use a red light filter.
Oh, interesting.
So we might be able to find, and he said there's existing, like because he was talking about coming and taking a video of me. And he's like, no, I'm sure between like the 50 or 60 filters I have in the truck, like we could figure out one of them that would literally show exactly what's in the middle of the flame and not have any color difference.
Yeah, that'd be killer. Because like I have with my camera that I have an ultraviolet filter that I've used, and it seemed like it worked somewhat in that same way, but it was still, I think like the brightness, I couldn't adjust the brightness for some reason on my camera, and it seemed like it helped out because I know like a lot of that sulfur flare, a lot of it's ultraviolet light that's being emitted, which is what is, gives us skin cancer and shit if we're not careful.
Right.
So,
or a nice tan.
Yeah, that too.
My wife's always just like, why are you always so tan? I'm like, because I work in a t-shirt all year. What do you mean? Man,
the worst for me right now is I have to wear a mask when I'm working, so it's my nose to my forehead are just tan. Like I have my raccoon eyes, and my lower half where my beard is not as tan as weird tan lines.
I was going to say, I never thought anybody'd have a mask tan. That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. I bet the construction workers are pretty hardcore.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Especially, like, even like when we went to Disney, like, we noticed it, too, like, wearing masks in the parks and being out in the sun. Like, I have a pair of ears that's Olaf, and he has, like, a little tooth in the front, and the tooth hangs over my forehead. And, like, in the middle of the summertime, if I'm wearing those ears in the parks, I have, like, a perfect square, like, a spot on my forehead where I didn't get any sun that day. It's
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's kind of fucking stupid.
That's a silly design.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah, that's funny.
I bet your wife just looks at you. You were wearing those when you went today, huh?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, yeah, man. Before I let you go, anything else you want to share? Kind of help us get through this rest of 2020 and deal with the COVID bullshit.
Uh, it just goes like as far as advice and stuff. It goes back to like what we were talking about at the kind of the beginning of the thing. You gotta be able to adapt with what the economy is going to do. And obviously everything moved very online very quickly. And a lot of people, I think, were stuck in their same old, kind of rut of doing things the same way all the time. And, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yep.
So, we're always going to have to adapt. The industry is going to constantly change throughout your life, as long as no matter what industry you're in, it's going to constantly change throughout your life. And if you don't go and try and change with it, it'll leave you behind, or you'll just end up struggling to keep up. So, try to promote yourself online as much as possible. Try to really pay attention to what other people are doing and the successes they're having. And, imitation is the finest form of flattery. And when it comes to economics, it also just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
If you see a successful, business style in this crazy ass freaking world that we're living in, and you think you can fit into it with what you're doing, give it a go. Like if you see waffles working somewhere, like waffle something. See everybody's moving to auctions, like start auctioning things. That the stubbornness that we all get about trying to have things be convenient and habitual is just going to end up hurting you in the long run, especially during times like these.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good time to take risks and see what happens for you. But yeah, I definitely agree. It's
and you can do, with the internet, you can take those risks on a small scale.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to go out and put everything into a new line or a new product or whatever like that. You can make just enough of a product to make it seem like you have 1,000 of them, and then go from there. You know what I mean? If that's your approach, it just, everything's going to keep changing. It's, everybody keeps talking about like the new norm, and once this all settles down, there will be like some new norm, some different, but a lot of the habits that we developed during this year are going to stick around. So, it'd be good to like try to monopolize on those while you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would be my main point of advice. That, and, try to take some time for yourself. Like this year has been fucking batshit crazy. Like stop stressing about the politics, stop stressing about your family that hates you because of that. Like just take a deep breath. This too shall pass kind of thing. Like, well, we're all going to have a better year next year, hopefully. And if we don't have a better year next year, well, we'll learn more from it and come out of the other end of it stronger. But,
Yeah, I agree completely.
You can't stick your head in the sand and hope to see the future. So.
Yeah, I've tried that before and it doesn't work.
Yeah. I spent a good portion of my life doing that. It took me a long time to, realize that's what I was doing.
I think my head was more in my ass than it was in the sand.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Fuck yeah. Well, on that note,
my
brother.
Dad used to make this joke. He'd be like, "You got to put a window in your belly button so you can see when you walk around." And I was like, "Why is that?" He's like, "'Cause your head's stuffed so far up your fucking ass." And I'm like, "Damn it, Dad."
I've never heard that before. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, he's got some good ones, that one.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, again, it was good catching up, and I hope you guys enjoyed our random talk here out of the blue.
Right.
Kind of get the ball rolling here with these episodes, and I'll definitely keep in touch with you. And it's on a side note too. I'll be releasing this on Friday, so I'll send you over a graphic and everything for Instagram and make it easy to share it and all the links and all that shit.
Sounds wonderful.
Hell cool. Yeah, dude. Well, enjoy the day. I know we guys all had some cool weather blow through the country. We're fucking freezing down here in Florida, so I'm sure you got some cool weather over there yourself.
Dude, it was like, it actually froze the last week, like at night, and that's not okay. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
At all. This white stuff is going to fall from the sky, and I'm going to go and cry a lot.
Are you guys getting snow soon?
Well, so if there was moisture, we would have already.
Yeah.
But it's been really dry. But it's yeah. I don't know. You know, we get 113 in the summer, and I fucking love that. And everybody thinks I'm insane, but I hate being cold.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, I love the heat. I hate the humidity we have here. You got that dry heat, but we got the fucking soggy ass, sweaty heat here.
We get some soggy sweat for a couple of months when monsoon season rolls around.
Oh, yeah, it makes
and then
sense,
it ends up like raining just enough to where you're like, oh, here's 100% humidity. And now it's 113 again.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Yeah. So like, you know, I understand it could be miserable. Like my main thing is like, just when I get cold, I can't get warm. But when I get warm, I can cool off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm a fucking lizard. So I like the sun.
Yeah, me too. That's why I chose the profession I chose. I think it chose me more than anything, but still.
Yeah, I think me too. It grabbed me up. It was just like, ooh, this one.
Yeah.
He likes fire.
Hell yeah. All right,
Well,
man.
cool.
Yeah, hope you had a good turkey day and happy holidays and everything coming up for you, and good luck with the sales during the holiday season, and keep kicking ass, man.
Yeah, thank you. And same to you. I hope you have a good rest of your year.
Yeah,
And
likewise.
I look
brother.
forward to hearing all the interviews and stuff and all the crazy people you get to interview.
Yeah, me too. All right, homeboy. I will be in touch.
Yeah. And you want to do this anytime, dude. I'm always around.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate you.
You too.
All right, man. Take it easy. Peace.